Up next to review are some uplights that I've been considering, the ApeLabs Maxi. Now before I kick this review off, full disclosure, I only uplight a couple gigs a year. I think it's partly because of the type of client that I attract. I do a lot of farms and barns, and whether it's cafe lighting or whatever the ambiance of those venues are, a lot of my clients just want to kind of stick with what they have. And I do get the occasional uplighting gig. Some people want just nice subtle colors, sometimes candlelight, something to kind of complement the rest of the theme that they're going for. Some people want a bit more transformative. And some years ago, when I did decide to invest in some uplights, I was pretty concerned about the other venues that were in the area that was starting to incorporate, lights within the venue itself. So I kind of rolled my dice and I invested in some Chinese uplights. So one of the things I had considered over the past couple years as potential replacements has been the ApeLabs Maxi. This thing is incredibly small. On paper, it has tremendous battery life. There's just a lot of features to consider. I'm going to start going over all of these, but I was lucky enough that I was able to borrow 12 of these. Thank you, ApeLabs, for being able to let me try these out. And with the 3 gigs that I was able to put these out on, I had a pretty good observation of what the capabilities are, how much I like them and whatnot. So I want to go over some of those details. All right, so first off in comparison is the Chinese light versus ApeLabs. I mean, let's just face it, these things are incredibly thin, incredibly small. These have 3 15-watt uplights, more than enough to really light up even some of the most tallest walls that they met up with. And to see how easy it is to charge, the charging port is right there. You just simply slide your light into the case, it locks in, and before you know it, the light's turned on, it's charging. So this is the remote that comes with it. Again, very small, not a ton of buttons on it, but it performs all the functions that in general you'll ever need. So you take your light, you turn it on, just one simple button on this, and you'll see that it blinks on what group it's assigned. And at this point, you can actually assign up to 4 groups that you want to control with it. Once it's paired up, you can immediately, it takes just a few seconds, and then you can just start cycling through all the colors and options. It has sound control. You can go through rainbow patterns. There's a lot of just nice, simple functions that you can control over this. Now, when I had these lights, I tried at one venue. I set up pairings both on one group and a second group. Again, very simple and easy to use. So this way I was able to create 6 lights that was part of one group, another 6 as another, and I was able to interchange lights and do some pretty nice and interesting lighting schemes in regards to that. At the other 2, I set up some sound parameters, so it was bouncing off the sound, one changing rainbow colors, one changing the static color. Again, it gave me a variety of options that I could simply control with just one nice simple remote. And I even inadvertently was able to test the water resistance of this. I was at my second gig that was trying these out. It was a tent style gig, and unfortunately it started to rain, and 4 of the lights were getting directly rained on. Absolutely no problem. I removed them just out of habit. They got rained on for a little while because I wasn't immediately there. But with talking with ApeLabs and these lights, they could have just stayed there as long as they want, as long as basically they just didn't submerge into water. Had absolutely no problem with it. Just wiped it down. The rain stopped after a little while. Everything was great. But it was very nice to know that if it continued to rain, and if I would have not been worried about having somebody else's lights in this case, I could have just left them there, and it wouldn't have been any major problems. And short again of flooding, and that just inspires a lot of confidence that whether you had these kind of on the edge of outdoors versus in, versus just somebody accidentally spilling something on it, these are well protected. Now, I could go on and on about the positives I had, but I do want to address some of the negatives of these lights, because these aren't perfect, but they're pretty damn close. So one of the first things, I don't like the mirror finish on it. Unfortunately, these hands get oily really quick, especially when I'm setting up and breaking down and all. So my fingerprints are generously on all the lights. So naturally I want to wipe them down after every use. I wish it had kind of a more, whether it was a painted or more kind of neutral finish. So this way, you know, it just wouldn't transfer my fingerprints on it. Now that might take away from the more premium look of the light, and I can understand if, you know, that's the route that they're going for. But it is an observation that, you know, having that is just a little bit, you know, at least again in my case, you know, I've just got hands that love to put fingerprints everywhere. It does transfer onto it easily, so be aware of that. Another small negative of this, I really wish it had amber as a color. It does have red, blue, green, and white. You know, mixes virtually, you know, any typical color that I would use at a venue, minus candlelight. And I do get some requests from couples, especially those ones that just want that subtle look, that candlelight or near candlelight is the option that they want. Now, you know, there's of course there's the orange and the white that you can do on it, but it doesn't quite meet up to that. So possibly in the future, maybe if they could install an amber light on it or do some additional color mixing, maybe to come a little bit closer to a candlelight option. But that is one small negative, especially at this price point. It was something I would hope for. I'm not too worried about ultraviolet. I know a lot of lights in this class do have ultraviolet. I personally don't do, you know, parties like that, so it wouldn't affect me as much. Amber just happens to do that, so maybe that will come out for some version in the future. The last negative I have on this is the charging cable that's used for the box. Unfortunately, this is not a standard IEC 320 cable. Not too big of a deal, but God forbid if you did forget this cable, you know, at home or something and you wanted to charge it, there's nothing else you could plug into. You wouldn't be able to use a standard, you know, computer / IE 320 cable. It would be nice if this was standardized. So should you consider the Ape lights as, you know, something to have in your arsenal? Now, I can only you know, consider this from my position. You know, again, I only do 1 to 3 gigs a year right now. I am trying to do a little bit more, you know, nice subtle upselling and whatnot, and I'm getting a couple more a year, and that's nice. So would this investment be worth it? Now, from time, ease, you know, simplicity of use, right now, from everything that I've tried out over the years, I don't think there's another equal on the market right now. So I definitely have to say, at least consider this. I know there's a few options in the market now. I think if you actually look at this, especially if you had a side-by-side comparison, I think you would really kind of edge toward this. Again, depending on what your use is. For me, again, being a solo DJ, looking for that quick in and out, that quick setup, the ease of use to you know, make them functional throughout the night, I just don't know of another light right now that equals all the features that this has at this price point and at this quality. Well, there's a video, and I hope you liked it. And if so, click that thumbs up, hit subscribe, do whatever social media is telling you to do right now. If you happen to like more videos like this, go ahead, check out my 4 DJs Only playlist.